Hey, so this is part two because I didn't make it in the last one, and I don't feel like rushing. So this is part two, and again, this what is the point of this? So if you're watching this video on Facebook or Instagram, this is two. These are things that need to happen scripture wise when either before the land is restored or after the land is restored. That's what we're discussing. And we're testing this word against 1948. So I went through about 1 through 10 or 11 in the first video, but I ran out of time, so I just cut it. And so this is the second video if you're watching this. So I will pick it up. I will pick it up at 11. So again, and I only have a few more to go. So 11, you should see the second exodus of the Israelites, okay? You know we haven't seen that, right? So again, this is before the land is restored. This is something that you should see. You should see the second exodus of the Israelites. We have not seen that. So again, 1948 didn't fulfill God giving the land back to the people. 12, okay, so number 12 is, okay, there will be peace and abundance of fruit in biblical proportions. So when Yahushua, we read these scriptures, right? When Yahushua restores the land, it talks, actually, I have a scripture. It says the earth will also yield fruits 10,000 fold, and on one vine will be 1,000 branches, and one branch will produce 1,000 clusters. So the point is, we know we can take that and compare it against Israel now, or 1948, and we know that hasn't been fulfilled, right? That hasn't been fulfilled. So we don't see fruit of biblical proportions. I mean, really anywhere, right? But so that's just another confirmation. Okay, 13, reason number 13, we should see. Okay, I discussed this in the Apocalypse of Abraham in the last video, but prior to the Israelites coming into the land, prior to Yahuwah delivering the land, you should see, or we should see, the 10 plagues fall on the heathen nations and the world for what was done to Israel. Okay, we talked about that. Remember in the Apocalypse of Abraham, it was very specific. It said, and Yahuwah will bring upon these 10 plagues to the heathen nations, and also, I guess, the world. And it said for what it has done to Israel. That was one of the reasons. We know also general wickedness. We know that. But I think people talk about general wickedness, and they don't at all talk about what happened to Israel, or they just downplay it. But I encourage you to read the scriptures, challenge you to read the scriptures. I know that the world downplays. That's why you always hear people say, and this is just kind of a tangent, but that's why you always hear people say, we'll bring it back. Whenever you talk about topics like this, it's bring it back to the message of the cross. Well, that's because they want to downplay, right? Some people don't know, and I get it. I totally understand. Some people don't know, but a lot of times people want to downplay all the things, all the times Yahushua says he's going to judge for what was done to Israel. And then again, it's the oppression of Israel. So I actually think I may do a video on that, but to bring this back home, we haven't seen the 10 plagues in ridiculous style overcome the heathen nations that enslaved Israel. And that needs to happen before Yahuwah restores the land. So if we know we haven't seen it like that, then 1948 didn't fulfill that. That's the point. Okay, and 14, this is the final one. Okay. I hesitated if I was gonna put this, but let me just give a disclaimer. Shout out to media. I want to do, if Yah allows, I want to do a whole series on media. So put on, for this last one, keep your mind open, okay? So I put, before the land is revealed, at some point in the future, we have to see Behemoth and Leviathan, they will be revealed. And then I put a whole bunch of exclamation points and put, now we haven't seen this. Listen, we have not seen no Leviathan. so that's, all these things, right? So let's just do a review, because I don't know where people watch on Facebook and Instagram. So again, we've talked about you need to see Jerusalem, or Israel restored. You need to see the Gentiles serving under the yoke of Israelites. You haven't seen that. You don't see that. In the last video, I talked about you would be serving a Jewish person right now if the land was restored. If you are not, then the land is not restored, right? We have to start thinking practically about these scriptures, but for this, there are scriptures. I shared them in somewhere, like one of the videos of the PowerPoint, where it talks about Leviathan, right? Leviathan, it says like it will be food for the people left over. It's like but it talks about Leviathan. So we haven't seen Leviathan, and that happens again around the time, I believe, of the restoration, like maybe before, but we haven't seen that. We haven't seen Leviathan. And I'm going to bring this back up in the media series. But for scriptures like this, I know some of you you're rolling your eyes and you're saying, like conspiracy theories. But my heart, listen, either we going to believe this word or not. If Yahuwah warns and talks about Leviathan and Behemoth, he said what he said. That's what it is. It's not necessarily about do we believe if it's real. It's about, do you believe the word of Yah? That's what it is. Do you believe the word of Yah? So, that's what the scriptures say. So if you're talking about, well, God has given the land back to the people of God, or people of Yah, well, have you seen Leviathan? Ain't none of us seen no Leviathan. So he hasn't. So it's tons of things that have not been fulfilled. And this is the whole point. The whole point of, these last two videos is, again, we want to test the spirit against the word of Yah. You haven't seen Leviathan. You haven't seen a people who were sold as slaves back, come out of nations. You haven't seen the 10 plagues that will befall the nations for enslaving folks and general wickedness. You haven't seen Christ's return. You haven't seen the desolate land restored. You haven't seen fruit of biblical proportions. You haven't seen the Gentile nations serve Jewish people. It's just so many things. I didn't even add this or talk about this. You haven't seen the 2 witnesses. You haven't seen the Antichrist. I didn't even put this, but I'm just naming stuff now. You haven't seen the Antichrist. It's a lot of stuff that we just haven't seen. And so 1948 did not fulfill any of this. It's important to note that. I'm going to come back and do a video and talk about what happened with 1948 as far as what actually happened in the earth. But again, it didn't fulfill scripture. And so we're bringing it back to the point of the war. Please, pray about what I'm sharing, but take it back to the Lord. At the end of the day, we must believe the word of Yah. So we don't want to get caught up in like geopolitical, because people don't want to read the word, but they may feel which I get it, but they feel a certain type of way and passionate about the war, and all this and these causes and all this stuff, but. Family, this is what the word says, okay? So really the land wasn't restored. Really it was colonization. It wasn't restored, because we want to test it against this. So I'm going to close this. Actually, no. And then one point I do want to call out, because we finished the list. So before I jump into the next video, I do want to call this out. I know sometimes, because I've heard this, I know sometimes a rebuttal is, well, Megan, Yah is going to do all these things very, 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 very slowly and gradually. And I'm sharing that because some of this stuff, it's not about Yah doing it slowly and gradually. It's about when the land is restored, you should have an if someone is telling you that the land has been given over and God has restored the land, you should have an immediate expectation to see some of these scriptures that they have come to pass. How they are getting around that is telling people that, well, Yah does things in his own timing. No, this stuff should have happened already. You understand what I'm trying to say? But people give that narrative because we all know if you take the word as it is, well, again, 1948 doesn't fulfill that. But if I want you to think 1948 fulfilled that, then I have to tell you a narrative of how God does things slowly. So hopefully that makes sense, because I've heard people say this. I've heard people say, well, the reasons, in other words, Yah did fulfill that with 1948, but it's just taking him some time for all this stuff to, no, some of the stuff we read that we've just discussed and we've discussed in the last videos, it's not supposed to take no time. When you see the land fulfilled, you're supposed to see this stuff happen, or you're supposed to have seen other stuff happen. Does that make sense? So I'm going to end it here. I love you guys. The next video that I'm going to do is going to talk about 1948. It's just going to kind of be reiterating the same points, but it's going to be coming from a point of talking about what did happen with 1948. And it's probably going to be short, but that's it. So I love you guys. Again, please get into the word for yourself and worship in spirit and truth. Okay, love you. Bye.